future legislatures and governors in terms of every time they get into a problem. My view of this is it's like an addiction. What's the problem? This year we have a $1 billion problem. Let's just go out and do another $1 billion. Then we have another $1 billion problem. Just go out and borrow for that. And, you know, we start to look a lot more like the federal government than the state of Minnesota in terms of how our Constitution is structured to make sure that we have a balanced budget and don't borrow from biennium to biennium. And I think there's just a fiscal principle here that, frankly, you know, on the House floor, we did kind of all join together, with the exception of a couple folks, to say, this is really not the best fiscal principle to follow. So we sent the governor his exact amount of revenue in a bill that would have balanced a portion of what's left. We have offered up that the school shift partnered with that would be acceptable in this crisis situation, this fiscal crisis. And we have also offered that either taking, which I do not think is as wise, taking the little bit of budget reserve that is there in our budget, you could take that. I don't think that's as wise. You know, we could do a combination of cuts, more cuts in areas. Representative Lincheski and Senator Bach don't have a tax target yet, so you certainly could do a negative target there and take some things out of the tax area. So I think there's a lot of ideas here, Representative Demmer, that we have proposed. Well, I'll tell you what, the governor keeps saying no to them. So, Representative Demmer.
Well, Madam Speaker, the governor didn't pass the bills. The legislature passed the bills, and we sent them to him. There was no shift in the K-12 bill we sent the governor, and if it was your intent that he was going to sign that bill and move on, why did we send him that bill? Madam Speaker, we sent him all the appropriation bills done. And you just said with the expectation he would sign them. And so my question, Madam Speaker, there's about $3 billion more.
$2.7 billion now.
Well, now, but prior to that.
No, $2.7 billion.
But prior to the line item veto, it was over $3 billion when the bill,
no,
last bill was passed. Well, okay, let's say it's $2.7 billion, Madam Speaker. Let's just say it for that, for the sake of conversation. Those bills were passed after the appropriation of the tax increase was vetoed, or wasn't passed.
It would have been $1.7 billion gap. That is exactly the amount of the House shift. It's amazing.
Speaker, these appropriation bills were all sent to the governor after the fact, and let's just say it's $2.7 billion. What was the plan that we had as a legislature, or that leadership had, after he signed these bills? What was the plan for the $2.7 billion shortfall?
I've been waiting to meet with the governor for days.
But we sent him the bills. And
so I don't know
what the governor's plan is. So we send him the bills, he figures out how to pay the bill?
No.
So what are we waiting for, Madam? Why don't we just go ahead and finish out the plan then,
I think
Madam Speaker?
This misunderstanding, he's got the same misunderstanding the governor had.
Yeah, I think we
well, we passed the bills, Senator.
There's a misunderstanding that the governor stated that I think you're restating.
Did the governor pass the bills, or did we pass the bills?
You know, Representative Demmer, you're not being particularly productive right now in your argument. You're doing a circular argument about who passes the bills. The legislature passes the bills.
What's the plan?
We pass the bills in conjunction with the governor. I think it's a real tribute to this legislature. Actually, I think this has been the year with the least number of vetoes on major omnibus bills that I can remember in terms of total vetoing of omnibus bills. The first 2 years ago, I think the governor vetoed almost our entire budget the first time around. And this year that's not happening, Representative Demmer. Is there a problem with that? Is there a problem that bills are actually being signed into law to solve the problem?
Madam Speaker, absolutely not. I think it's great, because and the governor is signing the bills, so we're all happy. My question is, and I still haven't had the answer yet, what's the plan from the legislature to pay for the gap between the revenues and what the bills we signed?
Representative Demmer.
That's two questions. What's the plan, and why don't we just finish it out? Because the governor has said if we don't finish it out, here's what he'll do. So what's the hubbub about allotment for? That's a question.
Representative Demmer, I have said it about 6 times today. I'll say it again. The combination of the delayed payment to schools partnered with a little under $1 billion in ongoing revenue, and maybe there needs to be a little bit more of some sort of spending reduction in there to get you over there to get across the line, but that's it. That's the plan. And, we're willing to be flexible about that revenue, that ongoing revenue. We are willing to call it whatever the governor needs to call it. If he, if he wants to, I don't know what he'd want to call it, but we certainly are open to it. So I don't know. I think we're getting into sort of some silliness here at this point. So we're going to be back together again tomorrow. Representative Emmer, would you like to say something?
I would. Madam Speaker,
You're always diligent to be here early and to be waiting, so.
you talk about an addiction. I think we should be talking about a denial. And the denial is that the plan was, you talk about flexibility, but I heard you earlier today say, in effect, there was no flexibility. We sent them our plan. That's what it is. And after the tax bill that you sent over last Friday, I think it was, that was vetoed early Saturday morning, if I recall right, when we talk about all this flexibility, the Speaker of the House was out in the rotunda screaming with the crowd, override, override, override.
Representative Emmer, I don't scream.
Well, all right, I'm sorry. Singing very loudly.
They were
we have it on
screaming.
tape. Yes, yes. Madam Speaker, if that was the solution, then
Did you say we have it on tape? Is that what you just said?
somebody has it on tape, yeah. Yeah, they're great pictures of it. I've seen a couple of pictures of it. You look very, very well. The point is this. Everybody keeps talking all day, and I've listened, and I've been quiet. But the problem is everybody keeps talking about what's the governor doing, and he's made a decision. He hasn't made any decisions about the budget. He's given the legislature, and frankly the leadership, some extra time to say, how are you going to finish this? Do your homework. You did the homework, you did the assignment, it wasn't the right one. And now you got time, go back and redo the homework, and in effect you're asking the governor to do your homework for you. I think everybody here wants to get a solution that doesn't involve an allotment. And I think all Senator Senjum, with his frustration, was trying to communicate is you accuse Representative Demmer of making a circular argument. In effect, that's what we've been doing here. That's what we feel like. We need to get to work, do the homework, and present the solution to the governor so that he doesn't do what it is he says he has to do. Frankly, I feel for him, because the legislature has put him in a very tough spot. Because if we don't come up with a solution that's workable for the governor, the legislature, and all of the state of Minnesota, you leave him with the only option, which is not the one I think he wants to exercise. And asking how he's going to do it before he sits down and actually puts pen to paper on these bills that are there, I think is inappropriate. It's, in effect, asking him to do our work for us. So hopefully tomorrow that'll change. Thank you.
Well, I think we're going to be adjourned for the night and back together probably sometime tomorrow. Thank you so much, Commissioner, for coming.